911, what's your emergency?
He's all alone.
A legion of bystanders has been dispatched.
Boom.
Boom.
Title card.
Welcome back to another very normal episode of the First Respodcast, where nothing weird has happened in the last week or two. Everything is normal. Nothing is amiss.
We are having a normal one. It is a crisp spring night. Happy equinox, everyone.
Happy equinox. We don't have any strong feelings about what's been happening on 911 recently. You don't have any strong feelings. Nobody does, really. It's been a really, kind of quiet, cursed, jinx. Yeah. I said quiet, but it's been a quiet week, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing of note that's happened recently is I've been Pope maxing recently.
Oh yeah, the Pope did die, but that's the only notable death I can think of as of late.
I actually genuinely have been looking into the candidates for the new Pope, and am getting very emotionally invested in the upcoming conclave. I don't know why.
This is like fantasy football for Catholics. Catholics who don't like football.
I'm not even a real Catholic. I'm just like Catholic by descent. I'm
same.
I'm unbaptized. I went to Sunday school because it had a preschool built in. I have no dog in this fight, but I still feel a sense of camaraderie.
I have no pope in this conclave.
I have no pope in this conclave, but I feel like I do. And let's have a conclave. I want to have a conclave. Lock the door tight.
Well, that being said, many are asking us to do a bonus episode about what's been happening in season 8. We are honestly feeling like we would rather wait for the season to be over. I know everybody's very curious. I mean, you can see our initial reactions on our Twitter account if you want, but we kind of, for me personally, my opinion on all this stuff is tentatively okay with it, but very dependent on what happens next. So I just don't want to bother recording something about how I'm feeling now in this moment and then have it totally change a week or 2 weeks later. We're so close to the end of the season now, we'd rather just wait. So that's where we're at. We'll get to our season 8 opinions, and I know everyone's curious, but for right now, we're just gonna focus on the season 2 episode we are here to discuss, which is season 2, episode 18. You guys, a season finale. This Life We Choose, directed by Bradley, whose last name we may or may not be able to pronounce, and written by, villain of the week, Tim Minear.
God, can I just say, first of all, I understand why people don't like, Tim as a writer. People think he's very scattershot as a showrunner, and the way that he structures storylines can be messy. I totally agree with that, to a point. But guys, this episode is an absolute banger, start to finish.
Oh yeah.
We need to acknowledge that.
Yes, absolutely. I think he's been scattershot these last 2 seasons specifically since he returned to the show. I think his original run of the show is indisputably amazing. So I've always assumed that it's kind of a too much power gone to his head kind of situation, if any. It's always hard to actually know how much influence you can ascribe to a showrunner, but yeah, sometimes the way he talks about the decisions he makes, it does seem like he'll kind of just go out on a crazy limb kind of for no reason, or just cater to his own personal tastes in a really indulgent way. But I think these earlier seasons, when maybe there was a little more checks and balances or what have you, I think they're really great. And so whatever we may be feeling about Tim Minear, in the later seasons, I think he is hit or miss. He's kind of throws everything at the wall, and sometimes things stick and sometimes they don't. But yeah, this is a great episode, and he has the potential to be a great writer, I think. And this is one of those episodes.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we start off the episode with a news broadcast about the serial male bomber. Of course, not a male bomber, but a male. Well, I guess both of those things
he is
are
male,
true.
And it's male that he's putting bombs in. But may I just say, I forgot to say this, the very first note I took was not related to the episode. It was just, may I just say before we start that I feel like I've lived 1,000 lifetimes since we last discussed season 2.
Oh,
that was just, I had to say that.
I was having a little perspective moment, as I realized we were coming up on the end of season 2, that we've been doing this podcast for a while.
Yeah, geez.
We've been doing this for, like, we're at the end of season 2. I'm like, where did that time go? I think we just had this discussion last week, so feel free to cut this out. But like seriously, like I blinked and we were here. That's like insane to me.
But especially like with kind of a big event happening in the last like current episode of 911 and then like so much fandom fallout for the last week, it just feels like forever since we last sat down to talk about season 2. And I noticed like as I started the episode, I was like, whoa, like I feel like I've been taken so far out of this world to then jump back into it. So it's just been interesting.
But with the mail bomber,
the mail bomber.
Spelled how it sounds. We find out that the first person he targeted, the lady that we saw last episode, was a criminal defense attorney, which could mean nothing. And the second guy was a insurance
adjuster.
There was a little Mangione. He's getting a little Mangione with it.
Kind of true, kind of prophetic.
I'm not gonna lie.
We hear that both of them survived. We hear that the first woman lived and the second guy is now in critical condition. We then kind of cut to, as this news report is going on, we see like fire trucks and ambulances responding to various calls. And then we get to the dispatch center where they're just being inundated with calls from like everybody thinks that they've caught the mail bomber or that they've received a package from the mail bomber. So we get a couple silly ones.
It was like Osama bin Laden had, shown up in like, Reno, Nevada or something. Like it was like just dud call after dud call. Yeah. Like there's this one that like, and like some of them are like fun, but like one of them's like racist. Like it's like
Josh is taking a call. And he's like, no, like your neighbor having a foreign sounding last name isn't enough of a reason to like get them arrested or something.
I would have loved it if it was like a foreign sounding last name, but in a white way. Like that, like their neighbor was Polish or something. Like, and so they're like, man, Mr. Kowalski, he's looking mighty suspicious as of late.
That old timey racism.
Yeah.
But then we get to Maddie, and she gets a call where she does one of my drinking game rules, which is she tells the caller that she's having trouble hearing them.
Yes.
I was looking when I made my video and I mentioned that, I was like looking for examples of it and I couldn't find all the ones I was looking for. And I think this is one of the ones I missed is somebody calls her and like there's a dog barking in the background really loud. Yeah. So she's like, I'm having trouble hearing you, ma'am. And then it turns out this caller has like, she's sicking her dog on someone that she suspects to be the mail bomber. She's like, he's putting something in my mailbox. And then the guy also over the phone is like, I'm the mailman. And Maddie's like, ma'am, he says he's the mailman. She's
like, that's not my mailman. My mailman is Larry. He's like, Larry's on sick pay right now. He had a surgery. I'm just covering him for 2 weeks. It's like, damn, this guy got like way more than he bargained for. This is not in his job description.
So the city is descending into chaos.
Maddie makes a note, actually, that's interesting. That's like, you might want to control your dog before the cops show up. And like, I had this like gut, like sinking moment where I'm like, oh my God, the cops are going to kill that dog.
They're going to shoot that dog.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because they love to do that.
But then right after that, a call comes in from an elementary school. It's an elementary school teacher saying that there's like a mysterious backpack that's been left on the school premises. And of course, sometimes in situations where there's an unidentified, like unclaimed backpack, sometimes that can be a risk for it having an explosive device, especially during this time when there's this scare going on about this package bomber. So we see the 118 arriving and the bomb squad arriving at this elementary school. The bomb squad does this whole dramatic buildup where this guy like dramatically approaches the backpack and like they're gonna do a controlled detonation. So they've like got all the kids away against the fire trucks, like, or behind the fire trucks. I think they're going to do a controlled detonation where they just like put an explosive device on the backpack and blow it up. So they like call the all clear, they like get back, they explode the backpack, and it just launches tuna fish everywhere.
Tuna fish splatters everything. Yes. It splatters the trucks, it splatters the trees, tuna fish everywhere. I know it smelled absolutely crazy.
Oh yeah, I know it smells crazy out there, but it's not immediately clear that that's what it is. One of the bomb squad guys examines it. He's like, it seems to be some kind of grayish paste. And this one kid from the crowd of kids says, it's tuna fish.
This poor little girl.
And the teacher, I have a big connection to make here. The teacher, they've got like this young woman teacher supervising these kids. Do you watch the Try Guys?
Very, very sporadically.
So you know that they have like this network of like friends of theirs who show up in videos?
Yeah, I remember that, getting them in some hot water. Yeah.
Well, especially since they've dropped Ned, they like kind of are incorporating friends into the videos more, like to kind of round out their cast of people. And one of their friends is a person named Marissa, who is kind of a big part of the Try Guys now. Like she'll show up on Eat the Menu. She's even been on like Without a Recipe. She shows up a lot, and she is an actress. And I've actually seen her in some commercials. Like sometimes you'll get an ad on Hulu for like a camping supplies store or something, and it's Marissa from the Try Guys. Guess who is playing the teacher in this scene?
Oh.
It's Marissa from the Try Guys.
Oh, wow.
A YouTuber who's made it.
Guys, that could be us someday. We could be Marissa from the Try Guys as a bit part on 911. Guys.
And this was something I noticed like on my last rewatch, and I thought about mentioning it in my YouTube video, but I didn't really get a chance. So this is my time to say that was Marissa from the Try Guys.
I love that. I love that connection there, because like that, like it adds some levity to this scene, which I just thought was like, if I was like a kid, would be harrowing, because like, what if I had my favorite stuffed monkey in that backpack?
True, but there's already some levity built in.
What if that was my little baby monkey? I felt so bad for the girl. Like all of my art stuff is in there. Oh no.
Well, she chose to not speak up when they asked whose backpack it was.
That's true. Her hating tuna fish was enough to overpower that.
Yeah. What happens in the scene is she says like, it's tuna fish, and Marissa from the Try Guys goes, okay, is that your lunch? And she's like, yeah, I didn't say anything because I don't like tuna fish. So presumably if she really cared about that backpack not getting blown up, she would have said something.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I respected the game of like, you know, I don't want to eat this lunch, so I'm just gonna like, you know, let this like happen. Like, I'm not going to say anything.
But what's funny is that then the child, Athena, has shown up because, you know, it's a police investigation. And the child says to her, am I under arrest? And I wrote, knowing Athena, I half expected her to say yes.
Yeah. Cuff her.
Cuff her.
She'll be tried as an adult. She'll be tried as an adult because this is Athena Grant.
Death penalty.
I was just thinking so hard about the scene in have you seen Dairy Girls?
I've seen the first season.
So there's a scene in the second season where the Dairy Girls are going to go to a Take That concert in Belfast, which was already huge for me because I love Take That. And I have a big parasocial crush on Robbie Williams. Did you like that scene in Degrassi: The Next Generation when Miles sings I Want You Back by Take That to, I think, Maya? You know I did. That's the only Take That song I know, and I only know it because it was on Degrassi. You know I did. And so they're going to Belfast. They're taking the bus. They've snuck out, and Michelle has a red suitcase full of vodka and mixers, of course, because she always knows where to get stuff. And the nun, the mean nun, is on the bus, and she's like, move the suitcase, I want to sit here. And they're like, we don't know whose suitcase that is. That's not ours. Because, like, you know, it's like she's gonna find the vodka, and so they have to pull over the bus because no one can identify the suitcase. And it's Northern Ireland during the Troubles, and so it's like, we have a code red, and the little Irish robot comes out and shoots it, and they're like, strong smell of vodka over here. And she's like, vodka. That's all I was thinking about in this. That is similar. That's all I was thinking about. Everyone watch Dairy Girls. It's one of my favorite shows. Then at the end of this sequence, we see like the 118 kind of discussing it, and somebody says like, you know, the false alarms are almost worse than the real thing, and somebody's like, don't jinx it. And then I think Buck says like, maybe the whole thing is a false alarm, you know, maybe there is no bomber. Cut to the bomber. Yeah. We get like the bomber, like we don't see his face, but we see the bomber literally building a bomb. And then title sequence, which this part did feel very Tim Minear to me, because it was kind of reminding me of like
it was kind of reminding me of these recent episodes with like the evil mad scientist lady. Like it felt kind of campy in the way that he can be.
Like, and I was a fan of that personally. I love that they shot him like he's like the Terrifier. I love that like they have like a supervillain going into the season finale.
Right.
And so
No,
I was just a big fan of this personally. But then like after the title card, we cut to the Grant household, and Athena and Bobby are picking cakes. This is the tastiest part of the wedding planning.
Yeah, well, what they're really trying to do is pick a wedding venue based on which makes the best wedding cake, which is a great idea, but also I thought that like most people, when they have weddings, I don't think they like get the wedding cake sourced from the venue, you know?
No,
don't you usually like you pick a wedding venue and then you like pick a bakery?
Yeah, so they said that I think it's because like this is their second wedding. They wanted to go for something more low key, so they're gonna like do it like in a restaurant or attached to a restaurant, and then they're just gonna like keep it very simple. And so they're like they chose 3 like really high end nice restaurants. And whoever makes the best cake, they're just going to have the wedding there.
Which, like, that is a great idea. Like, if you are only choosing between venues that make food, like, choosing which one makes you the best food is a great idea, or the best cake.
A great idea. And Harry is very reluctant about the whole ceremony procedure. And, like, Athena, she's like, I thought you were fine with Bobby and I getting married, you know? Like it's okay if you're not. He's like, no, I don't mind that you guys are getting married. I just don't want to wear a tux, and I don't want to dance with May.
Yeah, Harry is having a very like 10-year-old boy moment where he's like, I don't care that you're getting married or whatever. I just don't like the kind of awkward, embarrassing, formal stuff that you have to do at a wedding. Which honestly, fair. I kind of agree with him.
Fair. I was half expecting him to be like, yeah, I just don't like weddings. I think weddings are gay. Like,
well, I was half expecting him, because I didn't really remember what he said in this scene. I was expecting him to say, like, don't you think it's like inappropriate to have a wedding when these bombings are going on? But then I realized like that's more like the kind of thing an adult character would say. I don't think Harry would be thinking that.
We find out that Chief Alonzo has been disinvited until Bobby is reinstated as captain of the 118, which is very petty and also very accurate. I would not want him at my wedding either.
Yeah, it's like Bobby wanted to invite him, but apparently Athena didn't want to. And I think that's just Athena being a great fiance, because it's like, yeah, why would you invite the person who like might be about to fire you?
Seriously, stick up for your man, you know? We all know he doesn't have a spine, so... Just kidding. Damn. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Where's that come from?
I'm kidding.
He has a spine. Well,
he does have
Athena
a spine.
says...
Well, he had a spine.
Okay. Athena reassures Harry. She's like, you know, we can do whatever you want to do, but we'll walk down the aisle together or not at all. Like, she's just insistent that it's all about their family and welcoming Bobby into their family.
That's so sweet. It's so sweet.
It is sweet. And then we get Eddie. Our sweet Eddie is at what can only be described as a post-funeral family barbecue. We learned that the funeral for Shannon was yesterday. This was a gripe I had with this in my video, and I still have a gripe with it, which is it's the day after the funeral for Eddie's wife, and he is acting totally fine. Like, I get that when someone dies, you're not always like actively sobbing all the time, but just like the tone of this scene, it feels like it's been like a few months, not like a few days.
Yeah, totally agree.
Especially, again, like in real life, I would never like police the way someone is acting grief-wise, but given that this is a TV show, I just felt like it was tonally weird to just cut to Eddie like seemingly doing fine at like a family, like a sunny family barbecue. You know, if they had done like the funeral reception where like everybody's in black and there's sort of like a more somber tone, I feel like that just would have made a little more sense for this scene.
No, I totally agree. Although it would make what Helena and Ramon suggest even more gauche than it already is.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, not only is Eddie doing just fine, Christopher also seems to be doing absolutely fine about his dead mom.
No, he also seems totally fine.
Who, by the way, was just back in the picture, and who he loves. He loves his mom.
He loves his mom. It's just a weird, like, writing and direction moment to the way they frame this scene. But anyway, The funeral was yesterday.
Strange.
The funeral was yesterday, and I think it's Eddie's mom says that Christopher was so brave at the funeral yesterday, and Eddie says his mom was pretty brave too. Eddie's dad, who I think we're meeting for the first time in this scene, meeting his parents, Eddie's father, Ramon Diaz, says, how? By running out on him? And if somebody said this about my just buried wife, I would throw hands with my own dad, because what do you mean? And Abuela immediately is like, Ramon. Which again furthers my theory, I think, from last episode where I said, like, I think Abuela was like the only person in Eddie's family who liked Shannon, I hope. Because thank God somebody is being like, Ramon, you can't just say that at our post-funeral barbecue.
No, I totally agree. And like the body is still warm. You know what I mean? Like still these warm. People have no tact.
She is not cold.
No tact at all. And like I know that, like, you know, Helena and Ramon are never really depicted like sympathetically in any of these episodes. So like I don't feel, you know, bad for, you know, shitting on them. But I just gotta say, I hate Eddie's parents. I hate his parents so much.
They did not set them up for success with this scene, because what do you mean? Like, Shannon Diaz can never know peace, even after she's dead. And this is another point to just how tragic a character she is, because, like, Jesus Christ, like, this is what her in-laws think of her, you know?
Yeah.
Like, not even a little respect for the dead. My God.
Can we also point out that no one in Shannon's family is here, seemingly?
Well, part of me thinks, like, does Shannon have any living family? We see her mom briefly in Eddie Begins, and then, of course, we know that she left the family to go take care of her sick mom who had cancer. I think maybe her mom just died, and maybe that was her only family, or at least...
Does she not have a cousin who's sad about their dead cousin?
I mean, to be absolutely fair, like, the dead cousin might come to the funeral. I'm not sure if they would come to the in-laws' family barbecue after the funeral, you know?
Maybe they thought the whole ceremony was gauche. I mean, maybe they thought the whole, like... maybe they got the ick from, like, the post-funeral cookout, as they should. They got skeeved out by the Diaz family.
That is the thing, is, like, if Shannon didn't have a great relationship with the Diazes, like, maybe if she did have other family, like, maybe they would not come to a gathering like this other than the funeral.
Also, I will say, there, like, some of the extra casting, the casting of the extras was very interesting to me, because at the table where, you know, Ramon and Helena and Tia Pepa and Abuela are, and Eddie is, there's also a, like, seemingly like late teenage or early 20s like woman there.
I also want to talk about this.
So I just want to know, is that Eddie's sister?
So my headcanon is that no. I've seen some people act like this is his sister. I feel like I need an acknowledgement of that, if that's his. And also, we know he has two sisters, so I feel like if they were going to show, like, characters at this table that were supposed to be his sisters intentionally, I feel like they would have shown two young women. So my opinion is that that was maybe just like a cousin or a friend or something. My headcanon is that that's not one of Eddie's sisters.
But Eddie doesn't have friends. Eddie has his coworkers that are his found family, but he doesn't have other friends.
It was his Gen Z cousin. What we get from this scene is that a thread that will come up again and again. Eddie's parents want Eddie to move back to Texas because they want to be closer to Christopher, essentially. And they're really trying to kind of imply that Eddie can't take care of Christopher on his own, even though we saw at the beginning of this season, you know, he had been taking care of Christopher as a single dad for a while, and they seemed like they were doing just fine. But his parents just don't get that. And Eddie says to them, he's like, I'm about to end my probation and be a full firefighter. Like, why would I give up a year of development in my life? Like, it's like you guys don't care about anything I've done here.
Well, it's because they don't. I mean, we know for a fact that they have no interest in Eddie at all. They pay no attention to their son, and they show no interest in what he's passionate about. They only see Eddie as, like, I guess, a failed project of theirs, and they see Christopher as, like, an opportunity for, like, another son, another little do-over, where they can make all the same mistakes. Helena and Ramon, nightmare parents.
Oh, yeah. But luckily, Tia and Abuela do push back on this. They're like, we're sitting right here, like, we live here, and we've been a support system for Eddie. And I forget if it's Helena or Ramon, but one of them says this crazy line, Christopher hasn't been here long enough to put down roots. And it's like, first of all, again, it's totally dismissive of any feelings Eddie may have. And also, like, we've seen that Christopher has put down roots. He's got Carla, he's got Buck, he's got the 118.
He's got that school that we saw. He's got that nice ass school.
He's got a great school. It's just a very insensitive thing for Eddie's parents to say, especially when, like, they haven't been here seeing what's been going on. But Eddie says a line. He says, I chose this life for a reason. And it's almost like this episode is called This Life We Choose.
It's the theme. It's the theme.
Think about that.
We haven't had we haven't had like some really on the nose title drops in a while. It's been a minute since we had like a trapped level,
Exactly. And spoiler alert, this episode will deliver on the ridiculous amount of like title references.
Yes, it will.
And we cut right to a racetrack.
NASCAR dudes. Yes.
We've got this like long hair. The long hair is important. Long hair, tough guy racer who is arguing with his wife.
His fourth wife.
We get a lore drop that this is his fourth wife. They're arguing about the fact that nobody has shown up to this race. There are like 30 people in this huge stadium. Yeah. And, the guy says, oh, maybe it's because of the mail bomber or whatever. And we see like this explosion go off in the background, which I assume is like a car crashing. They don't really react to it like anything happened.
I mean, like, I don't know anything about NASCAR. I just
same.
I know that like the races can be dangerous sometimes. So maybe this is like routine. Maybe this is also like seedier version of like car racing. Like we see some monster trucks.
It kind of seems that way.
There isn't like a proper league here.
Maybe Tommy's there.
Maybe he is. Hey, he's one of the 30 people in the crowd. But like this guy, like he's like the Hulk Hogan of this like like this like amateur racing thing, seemingly trying to make a big career comeback because he can remember when like they had like 50,000 people in the stands. And like, okay, so the time of this sport and this like activity has come and gone.
Right.
And he's just like clinging desperately to his past glory days rather than getting into like pro wrestling or whatever.
That's what it seems like. And basically, they're really getting into it, this husband and wife. The wife also is expressing, like, it's not just the waning audiences, but she seems to not approve of the fact that her husband has such a dangerous job. Like, she is stressed out and worried about the fact that he's always putting himself into danger like this. The husband is working on the car, like he's doing something in the hood of the car, and he has the wife get into the car and try the engine. And like right as they're like really reaching this crescendo of their argument, he's like, try the engine, and she really steps on it, and the guy happens to be leaning down with his long hair, and his hair gets caught in the engine, and it starts spinning around, and it yanks his hair, and he gets scalped.
He gets scalped.
I wrote yowza.
Yeah, I actually wrote yuck when that happened.
It's pretty
it was like
brutal.
It was pretty gross. I loved the establishing shot of like the treacherous engine blades. It was very Final Destination to me. I was a big fan of it. I love that this whole thing is set up like a saw trap, and this guy's just like stumbling his way into it.
Very Final Destination, very Saw.
And it's like it's framed around like the car is like getting its revenge on the guy because like he's like it says like Janice. The car's name is Janice. It's a woman. And she was like his first love, and he's been doing this for so long, and he's like been constantly restoring her and putting her through hell, and it's like the car's just like, I've had enough, and rips his fucking scalp off. It's very amusing. It's very gross, but very amusing.
A little Christine moment.
Exactly. A little Christine moment. Then, she calls 911. Obviously, she freaks out because, like, the dude's scalp is, like, getting torn off. And so the 118 rolls up, and instantly, like, I love how Eddie just, like, already knows all, like, the parts of it. He does seem like a car guy.
He does seem like a car guy.
I just know that, like, as a teenager in El Paso, he spent like a summer restoring like a vintage 60s like Firebird or something, and learned like hard lessons about honesty and integrity or whatever. Like it's just like classic.
And
like
he did so with like a homoerotic bestie that he had a complex relationship with.
Yes, very
Duh.
80s, but through like a 2010s lens. Yes, very much so. The guy is still arguing with his wife while they're like trying to work, because they have to basically disassemble the engine in order to get to him, because like if you just cut the hair, it adds more tension to the scalp, and any amount of tension on the scalp could cause like an arterial bleed. This is very precarious. And so as they're disassembling the engine, first of all, he's barking orders at them to be careful. Buck is like being very haphazard with like the I don't know, headlight fluid for all my Rooster Teeth fans out there. He's still fighting with his wife, and she hits him on the arm, and then like a vein bursts in his head. It's so gross.
Yeah, he starts bleeding. Eddie's like, he burst the occipital vein or whatever, like he's gonna bleed out. So it becomes more time sensitive, and suddenly the wife is like, don't let him die, you guys, I love the bastard, which I love lines like that.
Oh my god, me too. I'm like, that was like such a revealing moment. Like these people really, really, really deserve each other, and I'm so happy for this horrible relationship that they're in.
Right.
He like promises like if he gets out of this, he's gonna give up racing for good. He was only doing it to impress her, and you know he's gonna be a real man to her. And then they disassemble the engine, and they have him on the stretcher, and Hen says that, you know, he's gonna be fine, he's gonna live. And so he immediately gets that spark of energy back in his eyes, and he tells her to basically like call his bookie or whatever, and says like, you know, with a toupee and a couple stitches, I'll be ready for this comeback tour in, you know, a week and a half's time.
Yeah, once he realizes he's going to live, he immediately wants to get back into it.
And she's having none of it. She says, Roy, you son of a bit, and then it cuts.
Yeah, I guess you could say this life we chose, I mean we choose, this life he chose.
He certainly chose that life.
He chose that life.
He certainly did. And so we go from what I would describe as a classic and emotionally perfect 911 call to a scene at what will become a very famous locale in 911 canon.
Yes, first appearance of Buck's Loft.
Buck's Loft with a real estate agent that at first glance I thought was Chloe Sevigny, but it turned out not to be, so I was embarrassed.
That would be a crazy cameo. But yes, Buck is touring the loft for the first time with his current girlfriend, Allie. In case you've forgotten, Allie. Allie's back, and he and Allie are being such like flirty freaks in this scene. This is so weird. I love it for them.
Like, it's a relationship built on like the two of them being like sex demons.
No, literally.
Like, these are the horniest people to ever exist, and I am all here for it.
It's kind of uncomfortable how strong they're coming on in front of the real estate agent. They're like kissing each other, they're like talking about like innuendos together. But I kind of loved it. I was like, I kind of forgot about this dynamic. It's kind of like a bridge between sex addict Buck 1.0 and like later Buck, because I was thinking about that recently watching season 8. I was like, you know, it's been so long since Buck 1.0. It's easy to forget that he was ever like a sex fiend.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In this scene, it's like, okay, he's still a sex fiend. He's just a monogamous sex fiend. And he's found his perfect match. Allie
is like the low commitment, long distance girlfriend that like Buck 1.0 like would have like wanted so desperately.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But Abby was the girlfriend that he needed in the moment.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, you get the impression that like if it weren't for what happens late in the episode, they probably could have been perfect for each other. Like, obviously we would have wanted Buck to have his bi realization, and obviously we want Buddy to happen, but like if they weren't gonna do Buddy, I was like really digging this.
I would have dug it more if they had Allie in like more than 2 episodes before this.
It's true.
I mean, they say that like she travels a lot for work, but like we have to see her sometimes. I don't think Allie was even mentioned in the last like 8 episodes, except for like one offhand mention about how they're taking it slow, which, by the
No,
way,
literally.
it doesn't really seem like they are, unless I'm getting my definitions of what taking it slow means mixed up.
I think they're both such freaks. They're kind of taking it fast in some ways, taking it slow in others. We see at one point, the real estate agent is like, "Oh, I assumed you two would be moving in together." And Allie's like, "No, like we're not quite at that stage yet. I travel a lot for work. Like I'm ready for his space to be more livable because, I like to stop and stay with him when I'm in town." Which, like you said, it's like kind of the perfect low commitment girlfriend. What you're saying about her not being in as much of this season, I feel like maybe if they had like continued this relationship a little bit into season 3, that would have been good. Because by the end of this episode, I noticed, spoilers, I guess, for the end of this episode, when they're breaking up, essentially, she actually says to him, she's like, "I don't know yet," or something. She says, "I'm not sure yet." And I thought that was interesting because it's actually not a conclusive breakup, but then she never appears again. So I wonder if maybe they had planned to keep her on a little bit and then maybe it didn't work out.
It felt to me, the breakup felt to me, and we'll get to it, it felt to me a lot like, do you remember on Teen Wolf when like Styles and Malia broke up and it was very confusing and they just like kind of like passively accepted that they were broken up now and not a couple anymore?
Yeah, I like didn't realize they were broken up at first.
Yeah, that's how it felt to me. Allie, I mean, like I love Allie because of like the earthquake episode, but like I really would have enjoyed more time with her. And at the same time, like, Allie had to die so Taylor could rise. So I'm not that sad about it.
It's true.
At the same time, like I do kind of like grieve, like, oh, Allie, the love interest you could have been.
Right. What could have been? I mean, to be fair, he doesn't get back with Taylor for real until like season 5, I'm pretty sure, or maybe the end of season 4. So like there could have been room for more Allie in season 3, but yeah, maybe it just didn't work out with the actress or something.
I do like the idea that she's banging him for Roof. Like just like, a place to stay while she's back in LA for a bit. Obviously she has her own apartment, but like
fucking the apartment man for apartment.
that's the idea I like the most, because it's like the perfect amount of like role reversal. That's like, oh, maybe Buck's the one getting played for once. I like that. I like that headcanon.
Basically, we see that they have like a fun, casual-ish relationship, and Buck is getting a new place. That's all you need to know in this scene. And I have to say, the scene ends with Allie saying to the realtor, "Let's talk closet space."
Allie, you don't want to know about closet space. Eddie's in there.
I'm just saying.
That's where Buck keeps Eddie at the end of the shift.
I'm just saying. I thought that was funny that was mentioned, and I'm gonna call back to it soon. So
Good. Yes. I am a fan of Allie on my screen. I think she was Miss Potential, but we go from this to one of my both at the same time favorite and least favorite calls in the entire show.
It's just a favorite for me.
Can I just like disclaim at the top of this call that one of my biggest fears in the entire world growing up was botflies, because my older sister, instilled in me this deep primal fear of bugs digging into my skin and then bursting out. It was the grossest. It still is the grossest thing in the entire world to me. This idea of like a parasitic like bug laying its eggs in me and like it like bursting out and all that. It's just
That's crazy that she instilled that fear in you.
She instilled so many fears in me. Okay, I still can't go into like a bathroom with all the lights off because I'm afraid of like Bloody Mary coming out of the like mirror to like, I don't know, have her way with me or something. I don't know what she would do. I guess she would just kill me. But like,
I don't think that's like... exactly what she does.
But like, it's like these like childhood fears that I still have with me because I was so afraid of them as a kid. So when it was like confirmed it's a botfly, I'm just like, yep, that calls it. I'm never going to Belize.
Yeah.
Ever. I'm staying in New York, where the biggest insect dangers are roaches and mosquitoes in the summer months.
Well, this is one of my favorite calls, and part of it is because we cut to an influencer live streaming. I just love like movie and TV depictions of influencers. I love to see like how they do it. I love like in Lifetime movies when they do really out of touch depictions of influencers. This one isn't terribly out of touch. It's like pretty okay.
It feels pretty realistic to me, honestly. They got the UI down perfectly. It looks just like an Instagram Live.
Right. So this girl is doing this, like, beauty and fashion influencer is doing an Instagram Live. She is vlogging about how she just got back from Belize. And throughout this entire scene, whenever we cut to like the live stream, there is a live chat going. And I have recorded my favorite like painstakingly while watching the episode. I kept pausing and rewinding to record my favorite comments in the chat. So I'm just going to keep like a running tally of those.
Please.
But basically, she's talking about how she got back from Belize. She has a couple of funny lines where she's giving this kind of insensitive spiel about how, like, even though people from Belize, like, don't have a lot of money or whatever, they're always super happy to serve you. Which is a crazy thing to say.
It's absolutely crazy. And like, it honestly, it feels like embarrassing like to watch that and be like, wow, we work in social media, don't we?
I was just talking about this with my coworkers. I was like, okay, I'm not like a Hawks diet pills on Instagram kind of content creator. But I am a content creator. Yeah, she's doing that. And she has this line about, like, you know, like, I'm an influencer. Like, that's the life I chose. Once again, this episode is called This Life We Choose.
Oh.
And the first comment I want to point out is a user called, I don't know how to pronounce this. It's something like Shiki Pon Pon 91 says,
Love.
Yay! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Products! A bunch of exclamation points. But she spelled it wrong, so it's like Proudcts. Proudcts and then like the cat heart eyes emoji. I just thought it was so funny because one of the things the influencer girl is doing is she's doing like a super unsubtle like sponsor drop where she's like, because of my friends at whatever like I was able to go to Belize, which is again funny, like actually in touch with how influencers can be. I thought the idea of one of these commenters saying like just yay products and spelling it wrong was like the funniest thing.
It was so funny. Oh my god.
In general, I just want to like give a shout out to like whoever was in charge of like editing this, you know, creating all of these chat comments, because it's just such a great detail that they chose to like make all of these comments. I watched the whole thing. All of them are original. Like there's no repeats or anything. You see the same accounts coming back. Like it's just a great detail that they chose to include.
And like, by the way, can we just say she doesn't seem to be like a huge time influencer. Like she's like a teenager living with her family. She seems to be from like a white collar family.
Do we hear that she's a teenager?
Well, no, she calls for her mom, so I assume that maybe she.
Oh, I thought it was like she was just saying that as like an exclamation, because then a woman comes in eventually and it looks like maybe her housekeeper, not her mom. I think she's an adult.
She I don't know, maybe it's just because like I just assumed that like she was like a senior in high school or something, because like people start young nowadays.
True. But yeah, she's probably got like 300,000 followers on Instagram or something.
But like also her live seemed to have like not a particularly huge viewing. Like I think the number was in like the triple digits or something like that. And like the comment cycle itself, I mean, this is probably just because they wanted to write unique comments, but like they're not like flowing in at like an incredible pace, right? So I assume that this is like her loyal followers who are like watching this live stream.
Another thing I need to point out is one comment says, quote, "I love your closet." Another closet reference.
Do you think that was Eddie?
I think it was. Eddie, who was about to respond to this call, he was commenting that from the 118 station.
No, I think that was Allie, honestly. I think that was Allie. She's like, this is the closet space I want for my boyfriend's apartment.
She's been thinking about closets a lot lately. But there's a funny moment. So she points out that on her face, she says something relatable, you know, influencer relatable about like, you know, even when I'm not looking my best or whatever, because look at this on my face. And she points out that she's got this huge zit on her cheek. And, you know, she's getting comments that are like, ew, what's that? And she turns around to get a towel out of like a towel warmer that she has. And Donald Tweedy 88 says, "Towel warmer?" ?
Do you think that was...
I just loved that.
Well, he said the name was Donald Tweedy 88.
Yes. Do you think they're a white supremacist?
Yeah. Do you think this was like a MAGA girl and like this is like what she had coming to her?
Ooh. I mean, I hope she's
God.
not a MAGA girl. But yeah, she was making some insensitive comments about Belize. But yeah, I just loved the idea of one viewer watching her take a towel out of a towel warmer and just commenting, "Towel warmer?"
Towel warmer? Question mark?
Something so funny about that to me. Again, like, just the details are great.
Yeah.
Suddenly, so the girl gets a towel. She's telling her audience, like, I'm going to show you the correct way to pop a pimple, which this is kind of in touch because there is a whole world of like content creation around pimple popping. It's a whole thing. And so she starts to pop this pimple and like a tiny little maggot starts coming out of it. It's really gross. It's really gross.
It's so gross.
The comments start noticing, and she notices. And of course, she freaks out and falls and hurts herself and asks Siri to call 911. I think we would all freak out in this situation.
This is when I noticed a comment, actually, when she's freaking out, when the bug is coming out of her face. There's this one guy in the comments going, ha 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 ha. And I'm like, I love that guy. This is so real.
That would happen in real life, yeah.
Oh my God. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I had like a visceral, like almost like panic reaction to it. I'm like, no.
It's very gross.
And it was like perfectly like done too, because like it is kind of like a bad CGI bug coming out of the skin moment, but like it's still like so visceral that like
I don't know, it looked pretty real to me, honestly. Like I didn't really even take note of like, oh, that must be CGI or something. And then once the 118 show up, this is like a whole new dimension to the scene. Once Buck and Eddie show up and get in front of the live stream, which is still going, of course.
Yeah.
Our friend Shiki Ponpon 91 says, OMG, these guys are so hot. Cat hard eyes emoji again. And then we see Chigglypuff 12 says, I think I'm in love. Yellow heart emoji, green heart emoji, diamond emoji. So already we're getting some realness in these comments.
This was a real like voice of the fandom moment for the show. Like this is like on the level of like, you know, Supernatural doing that like one episode with like all the kids putting on the stage play of their show.
They clearly decided to put in some references to like how would random people on the internet react to our characters. And you know, Hen gets in there and starts helping the girl. She's asking her like, have you traveled recently? Have you been to wherever? Somebody says something about like Dispatch said something about an animal. And she's like, yeah, it came out of my face. And, you know, Eddie's like, what are we looking for exactly? She says it was like a worm. Hen says like a maggot. And she's like, don't say maggot. Buck ends up finding the maggot. And he gives it this look like he's so happy to have found the maggot. He's looking at it, huge smile on his face. He's looking at it like it's his little pet.
He loves bugs.
He does love bugs.
He loves little grub, you know? I like the idea that she said don't say maggot because that's a slur against MAGAs.
I don't want to believe that Botfly girl was a Trumper, but maybe she was. We get a comment from the chat. I don't know if it's pronounced LA Brit and Bears 96 or La Brit and Bears 96, but she says, those guys are cute. Pan D89 says, how do I get their number? Which I was like, that's a comment that Ryan would leave, first of all.
100%. I was there in the chat and I was following MAGA Botfly girl religiously. I just thought she was a fascinating figure in pop culture.
Now, Venezuelan Viper 204 says, aw, what is that? Hard eyes emoji. In what I can only imagine is in reference to the maggot, I guess.
maybe
she says, "Aw."
Maybe she was talking about. Buck's cute little birthmark.
No, she could have been talking about that, but I like to imagine that she was talking about the maggot.
Well, you know, Venezuelan Viper is probably about to be really offended because, they ask her if she's traveled to South America or Central America recently. And this is why I think she was like still in like, you know, like high school or whatever, because she didn't know that Belize was in Central America. She's like, no, I just got back from Belize. They're like, Belize is in Central America. She's like, oh, is it?
Yeah, Eddie is like, that is in Central America. She's like, oh, are you sure? And he's
Yeah.
like, pretty sure. I think you might be giving her too much credit.
Well, I think her parents planned this trip. You know what I mean?
You know, I would like to believe that she's just a teenager who doesn't know these things, but I think unfortunately in canon it's supposed to be an adult woman who doesn't know these things.
Which is less defensible. So maybe she's just a mean-spirited caricature of a beauty influencer who doesn't know that Belize is in Central America.
I think that is what we're dealing with here.
That's kind of sad.
We hear from Hen that what we've got on our hands is a botfly. They lay their eggs on mosquitoes who will bite people, and then the eggs get into people's skin. Very gross. We get a comment from La Crucida 5054 who says, "Hello, Mr. Firefighter, ...
I love that all of these are now just like glazing the firefighters. I'm obsessed with like the shift.
They are, but then we get a comment from user Kanye West _5679 who says, "Becca got bugs in her face."
Like, true. No one can deny that.
True. But Hen says, like, you know, we'll get you to the hospital and they can get the rest out of your face at the hospital. And of course she's like, "What do you mean the rest?" And Chimney has a great line where he says, "Think of them as new followers."
Oh my god.
Do you think we
God.
have any Botfly followers?
I hope so. Although honestly, I hope not, because then like if we don't, no one can accuse us of like botting our our accounts.
That was good. Listen, sound off in the comments if you're a botfly and you listen to this podcast.
Buzz off in the comments. Right. Go bzzz.
Well, they get the girl like up onto a stretcher, and Buck and Eddie are now fully in frame again. So we get user cheer _chic 27 says, "Those two can put me in a sling." Our old friend Venezuelan Viper 204 says, "LA's finest," heart eyes emoji. And the influencer like tells them to grab her phone to like give it back to her, end the live. So Buck and Eddie like go up real close to the camera, and as they get close,
they start waving. Oh my god.
Yeah, as they get close, user AgTink722 says, quote, "Those boys are fine," thumbs up emoji. And our friend Kanye West 5679 says, "OMG, those two are so cute together." Is this fucking play about us?
Is this fucking play about us? And then
Cheer Chic 27, the final comment on the screen says, "They should totally be a couple," 3 exclamation points. Do we think, because Buck and Eddie are right up close looking at the phone at this point, do we think Eddie read that and like buried it deep down inside?
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised. So this scene is foundational buddy text. It is one of the most referenced pieces of like buddy canonicity seeds. And I like first of all, from a pragmatic standpoint, I take that in 2 ways. One, I totally agree that like it exists in the canon of the world now, so it has to happen. But also, like, it's obviously just the writers lampshading this idea.
Yeah,
but
homophobic writers love to do that, frankly.
They do, and I've had enough of it. But the optimist in me wants to be like, "Oh my god, it's got a reference in the text.
It was hints."
It was hints. But this scene is also the foundational piece of text for a very good fanfic I read called #ThoseTwoFirefighters. Everyone read #ThoseTwoFirefighters.
Oh my god.
It's about the viewers of this start to like track down Buck and Eddie, and like there starts like an online fandom hoping for them to get together, and it becomes like a phenomenon on like Twitter and Tumblr and stuff. It's a very Tumblr core fanfic, and I don't say that like, you know, in a pejorative way. I mean that like as a term of endearment. It's very sweet, it's very fluffy, and I enjoyed it greatly.
Okay. Well, we cut from that scene to Michael and the kids arriving at home. Harry has just won a science fair project, so that's a big deal. And then they find a package at the door.
Oh no.
Harry's like, "Oh, a package for Mom." He almost picks it up, but Michael smartly is like, "Do not move. Like, don't touch that." Because of course it looks like it's from the mail bomber.
I mean, it's visually identical to like the one that we saw him piecing together, and so there's like a
Yes.
visual reveal of that, and so it's like, oh, this is so ominous. They were going for Athena, and so the bomb squad rolls up, everyone rolls up, and Athena Grant is on the scene.
Athena Grant is on the scene, and it turns out, we find out in this scene that a judge was killed by another mail bombing this morning, so it's starting to piece together that it's like all these people kind of adjacent to law enforcement.
If only there was a scene like in an episode that we watched recently where there was an insurance thing and a guy went to jail and it destroyed a family and gave a motive to someone. I don't know. Interesting idea.
I don't know.
We'll see if that comes back.
But this turns out to be the real thing. It's not a false alarm. I did think, like, although this turns out to be the real thing, it would be funny if it turned out to just be like Athena's monthly skincare subscription box or something.
Yeah.
Her Naked Wines delivery, like it just is a genuine package.
She's got like what is that, like a food subscription service that all the YouTubers were doing brand deals with in like 2018? HelloFresh is her HelloFresh delivery.
She's like, oh, sorry guys, false alarm. But yeah, it's the real thing. The bomb squad comes and they like put it into like a kind of safe box. They're going to try to transport it back to whatever their facilities to study it. But the guy says like all of them have exploded right when like we try and move them. And then, the bomb explodes in the box. And Harry has this funny moment where he's like, is that it? And Athena kind of looks at him like, come on. It
was like he was expecting a bigger explosion. It was honestly funny.
I get it. Like as a kid, you'd be like, come on, give me the whole thing.
I wanted some structural damage,
Yeah.
But then, it like cuts to like a little while later, like, like 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes. And then Bobby shows up at the house. Athena's talking to like one of the cops. He's concerned, of course, because like, she was targeted by this bomber.
Wouldn't it be crazy if instead of like this being a genuine moment of like Bobby being late because he couldn't get through like the street barricades, imagine if this was actually foreshadowing that Bobby was the bomber?
Yo.
That wasn't in my notes. I just thought of that just now.
That's an interesting idea.
Tim Minear, if this was a storyline in season 8, Tim Minear would have done that.
Bobby snaps. Like we can't kill him, so we make him crazy.
We turn him into a villain. Thought experiment. Which one would the 911 fandom be more mad about? Bobby dying or Bobby becoming evil?
Probably becoming evil, because I feel like they would have more of a leg to stand on with that, because it's not just you killed Bobby, it's that you like ruined his character would be the argument. And I feel like that's more of like a righteous argument, right, than like just like you killed him off.
But like imagine.
Yeah, just imagine it's that's another one.
Such a funny idea to me
for the fanfics.
There's a precedent. Did you ever watch Bones?
Yes. Oh my god, with what's his face, the
well, yes, spoilers for Bones. I can put timestamps in the description, I guess, if I leave this in.
Oh, it's in like season 3, by the way. It's in season 3. So
yeah, it's true that like most people who were wanting to watch Bones probably already know. But there's like a kind of sweet, innocent character on the show who turns out to be like in league with a serial killer. And that's kind of like the end of that character. I think he comes back in a very late season of the show, but I never actually watched the like very last seasons of the show. So I don't know. But that's like, it's kind of crazy because it is this crazy status quo change where like a character that had previously been sympathetic is revealed to like be in on one of the villain arcs. And that's just like, he's not on the show anymore after that.
Yeah, in Good Doctor terms, this is like if the Good Doctor started like listening to like RFK Jr. speak and tried to blow up the CDC.
In Good Doctor terms, this is like if the Good Doctor became the Bad Doctor.
The twist no one saw coming.
Okay, that would have been a great like final season shift for the Good Doctor.
It's like a Kristen Bell shows up as like, wait a minute, you're the Bad Doctor.
You are the Bad Doctor. Okay. Well, yeah, Bobby shows up.
Yeah, and like they like, exchange like concern, like, like you were targeted, like who's next and whatever. She calls over Agent Boyd, who's like the detective like investigating this. She calls over Agent Boyd. I thought she said Asian boy. So I misheard that. It's just like, Asian boy, get over here.
Damn, Athena, that is not okay.
That's not okay. Like, damn, go sit in the Tommy corner. Like,
that is so funny. I didn't clock any of that.
They start like putting the pieces together of like, you know, she'd only been in the judge who died. She'd only been in his chambers once on a case. His name, like Judge Clemens or something. Bobby's like, why does that name sound familiar? And they're like, you know, I didn't know. And for a moment, it's like, this civil defense, this criminal defense attorney.
Sorry.
You know, I didn't.
I'm still thinking about Athena just calling over Asian. Like how out of pocket that would be. Sorry, I started thinking about it again. Damn. Sorry. That would be crazy. That's not what happened.
That would be crazy. His name was Agent Boyd. Anyways, she's breaking it down for this guy because she, like, there's this criminal defense attorney and this insurance guy and then this judge, and there's only one place that they could have all been in the same scenario, and it's this case from a few years ago is Arson Daddy who died in prison. Apparently, we find out that Victor / Guillermo / Victor.
Well, okay, this scene is so not helping our confusion about Victor / Guillermo's name, because in this scene, you know, they all start remembering the Guillermo arson case, and they say the owner was named Victor Costas, you know, whatever. So who was Guillermo?
Well, I assume his father, maybe?
We just don't know.
But, like, then, like, it said Guillermo in Bobby's little black book. So, like, did Bobby just assume the guy's name was Guillermo and not Victor? Like,
Bobby practicing Italian-American discrimination?
I don't understand this.
Yeah, we don't know. But we hear that Victor / Guillermo, as he will be known from here on out on the show, got 6 years in prison, but he died of cancer recently.
Like 3 months ago, right?
Yes. Naturally, they think back to Freddy, the kid of the Victor / Guillermo.
I'm sorry, I can't take any villain named Freddy seriously, because I'm just gonna think of Freddy from iCarly. Like Nathan Kress.
Well, there's Freddy Krueger is a famous villain named Freddy.
I guess, but like just imagine like Freddy Benson just rolls up like in like a bomb vest. Like, you've pushed me too far.
My first associations with the name Freddy are 1, Freddie Mercury, 2, Freddy Krueger,
Fair.
3 is probably Freddy from iCarly.
You're also a big Queen guy, you know what I mean? You're also like a big Queen
I am
head.
a big Queen guy. One of my toxic traits. So they naturally start to remember that Freddy, the son, was very angry when his dad got arrested. So they think back and kind of put the pieces together and just like know that Freddy is behind these attacks. Mm-hmm. So we cut back to
the mom is being interrogated.
Yes.
Where's your son? Where's your son? She's like, I don't know. I haven't seen him since my husband's funeral. And he's gone off the deep end. He's a angry boy. And like, my family's been torn apart. We lost everything. The insurance wouldn't pay out. We spent all of our money hiring that, you know, defense attorney, all for nothing. We're destitute. Yeah. We're broke. Our lives have been ruined. And I was just like thinking like, damn, I genuinely feel so horribly bad for this family.
It is a genuinely extremely awful story, and probably does happen in real life. Like, people just can have their entire lives ruined by the justice system, obviously. And this is kind of why we're supposed to not have too much sympathy for the kid, is like, his dad did make the choice to do arson, but it's like we saw the backstory in Bobby Begins Again of how desperate they were and how this was all motivated financially. So it really does just feel like they got dealt this terrible hand and things just kept snowballing and getting worse.
Yeah. And like I feel bad for like everyone involved here. You know, I feel bad for the father who, you know, he, you know, lost everything, was backed into a corner and only saw like one way out to provide for his family, then died of cancer in prison. I feel bad for the family for, becoming destitute because of, everything that happened. And I don't like it's not comforting when Bobby turns around and says everyone was just doing their jobs. Like, obviously, like, that's like I guess it's objectively true, but that's not good. Like, it doesn't provide any comfort to the like destitute family that we never hear from again.
Right. The wife has a line in this scene where she's like, prison killed him. That's her perspective on her husband's death, is that it took the life out of him, and that's kind of why he got cancer, in her opinion. And it's also like, when you think about it, it's like, it's not at all the mom or son's fault that the dad decided to make this rash decision. It's like that was entirely up to him. And yet they have to suffer the consequences. They
suffer the consequences more than anyone. I mean, like, you could argue that the dad suffered the most because he, lost everything and went to prison and died.
But, like, yeah, you very much feel for these people.
Yeah. But then we sort of, like, go from this harrowing account of all of this family's problems to a legendary, iconic scene in 911 lore.
Yes. We should say, at the end of this scene, they're all at the police station watching this interrogation take place, and Bobby and Athena are there watching, and somebody shows up and says, like, Bobby, your house was cleared for any bombs. Like, there's nothing in your apartment. And Bobby says, maybe you searched the wrong house. You searched the wrong house. Vivica A. Fox would say.
Yes.
And we cut to the 118. Everybody's like loading into the fire engine. They've gotten a call. Bobby tries to call them while they're in the truck, but before they can really get through to him, before he can say anything, the fire truck fucking explodes.
And Buck, like an idiot, decided to sit in the passenger seat. Everyone else is in one truck. Buck sat in the ladder truck.
To be fair, how was he to know? Well,
when does he sit in the passenger seat? What? He's just like, oh, let me ride up front and feel like a big boy for this ride. I'm sorry. It's like such like a non-detail that I shouldn't even be pointing it out. But I just thought it was funny that like everyone else is riding in a separate, like maybe they had like a petty little fight, or like Buck said something that gave them the ick, and they're like, we're gonna ride away from you for this call. And then the truck fucking explodes. Everyone's like thrown from the vehicle. And who should get stuck but Buck?
He is stuck as hell in this scene, I must say.
A 2-ton ladder truck. He's thrown to the pavement, and then the truck overturns and crushes his ankle. It is a nightmare. Yeah. His ankle is pinned under the truck. And his consciousness starts to like come back to him, and who should walk up but motherfucking not Benson, not Kruger, not Mercury, but Freddy, the child of the arsonist, with a bomb vest.
Freddy Costas, I guess.
Freddy Costas
and or Guillermo.
Freddy in a bomb vest saunters up. He moseys on up to Buck, and he goes, "You're new." Then it cuts to commercial.
So iconic. Can I just say, this whole episode, but especially like this ensuing sequence, has so much sauce.
So much sauce.
And just that moment, sauntering up and going, "You're new." Like, I got like that Glee feeling, that American Horror Story feeling, where I was like, I'm just watching like divification in the making. It was really, really a nice feeling.
It was so good because like the peril here is so genuine.
Yes.
And I love. Okay, do you remember like at the peak of the Glee fandom and like the fanfiction.net days? When the Gleeks were rabid and numerous, and it was the most popular fandom for television on FFN. There would be so many bus crash fics. It was later turned into a storyline stupidly by Degrassi.
Oh, awful stuff.
But it was great for a fanfic because you could see like they're on the bus to regionals and the bus crashes and every character is injured or they're like in peril and like I loved it. I loved those fics so much.
That makes so much sense to me though, because it's like a classic scenario to get all of your characters in peril So much angst, so much relationship drama.
And like I feel like this is the kind of scenario that like 911 fic writers like is like, it's like the golden like inspirational like point, you know, because you have Buck in peril, and even though there's not a lot of Eddie focus in this scene at all, you do get flashes of like the rage in his eyes, the like you can see him like biting back, like the urge to like go and kill this kid or whatever later on. Then you see Buck, you know, Eddie comforting him, you know, as they're trying to lift the truck off of him and everything. It's perfect. Place your little Pookie Bear in peril and have their one true love help them through it. But we find out that obviously, you know, because we come back from commercial and Freddie is like he wants Bobby, he wants the captain. He says, "I want the captain. Bring out the captain." And it's become this hostage situation because, you know, he's doing the whole bomb vest suicide bomb thing, and he's gonna make everyone go boom, right? Maddie is watching helplessly from dispatch center on the TV. And Josh is there with her, and she's using her analytical nurse skills to basically look at Buck from afar.
Mm-hmm.
Says it looks like a crush injury. Then this line always breaks me. She just goes, "He's all alone."
Yeah.
And she starts to tear up, and I'm like, oh, like I want to cry. Like we need more. First of all, can we just say we need more Maddie Buck siblings moments in general? But like I just like a concerned older sister for an imperiled younger brother always tugs at my heartstrings as the younger brother with an older sister. So
yeah, and she's like, we know that she's been so like parentified over him. Of course she's going to be feeling a lot during this moment. But back at the emergency, Freddie is asking for the captain of the 118. So finally, Chimney, who you'll remember is acting Captain Han, comes out. But Freddie, of course, isn't satisfied by this. He wants Captain Nash, you know, the captain he interacted with during the arson call. And so Bobby is out there in the crowd, and he quickly tells Athena he loves her, and he just walks out there because very Bobby move. He's like, of course I'm going to put myself on the line for my team.
And like, you know, the cops try and stop him, and he goes, "You want to stop me? Shoot me.
Shoot me if you have to." I wrote, he's so cool.
He is so cool. I mean, that was such a badass Bobby moment.
Yeah.
And Bobby starts like trying to talk him down, saying that he's sorry for what happened with his family, but in his very like commanding Bobby way. And Freddie is like, you know, he's dead set on like, you know, I'm gonna take you down. We're gonna blow up in a blaze of terroristic glory. And then Bobby says, "You're really gonna make your mom watch you die?" And then they bring out Freddie's mom.
They play the mommy card.
The mommy card. And it works. He hesitates.
They bring in mommy.
For one little moment when he turns to see her. And then Bobby pounces. And he wrestles the detonator out of Freddie's hand.
Which, this seemed so reckless to me. Like, Freddie is holding one of those just like, he's got his thumb over a button, right? That's the detonator. And Bobby comes in to wrestle it from him. It seems like it would have been really easy for the kid to just like blow everybody up. But somehow Bobby gets the upper hand.
I mean, it would have been really easy for Bobby to accidentally press the button too. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big red button designed for a thumb.
Somehow he gets him in such a way that the cops are able to grab him, and he doesn't explode himself.
Am I the only one who feels like this is a bit of an anticlimax?
A little bit. It feels like, well, I think what it is that they kind of frame this with the bomber like it's going to be the climax, and then actually like getting Buck out from under the truck is the climax.
Yeah, I could have used just like one more minute of like Bobby trying to like talk down the bomber and like sort of like the bomber trying to like make Bobby come to terms with like his role in the destruction of this family. Like I thought that would have been interesting. I would have enjoyed like seeing that fleshed out a little bit more. You
could have even gotten a hint about Bobby's own insecurity with like his past and his family. You know, we saw in the Bobby Begins Again episode him saying to his priest, like, I feel so guilty that this guy who was just trying to look out for his family should get in trouble when I kind of killed my family and didn't get in trouble. So maybe, you know, it could have been just like a seed planted for later Bobby development, but they don't really do anything here.
Yeah, that could have come back in an interesting way, but they didn't. But also you understand why they didn't, because this is a network show. This is a time crunch. We need to get this shit done. So
I guess so. And as soon as the bomber is out of the way, Hen, Chimney, and Eddie run in to help Buck. We see that Allie is watching at home. Of course, she's very torn up about it. We're also hearing the running commentary of the news anchor, who's saying, quote, "That firefighter really appears to have taken the brunt of this. I wrote story of Buck's life."
Literally story of his life.
You're telling me he's taken the brunt of it? Yeah, I'm not surprised. But the paramedics on scene are Hen and Chimney and Eddie. They're all trying to figure out what to do. They're like, we've got to lift this truck. So they get a real life truck. They get all of the 118 members to try and lift the truck, and they just can't do it. Like, it's too heavy. Yeah. They don't have enough people.
You kind of realize how heavy these trucks are when they're watching it, because like this truck, I mean, like it's not only does it have like a load bearing ladder on it, but like it's also like, you know, as we've established in previous episodes, it's stocked with water, right. And it's like made of like really heavy, like dense steel. You know, this is like a Tonka truck. It's got to be like tons. I'm gonna look up the weight of like the average ladder truck right now. Oh my god. A typical aerial ladder truck for a fire department can weigh between 53,500 and 70,000 pounds.
Oh my god, that is like way more than I would have expected. In my head I was like, oh, maybe a few tons. No, okay, that's crazy. So yeah, the fire department tries to lift the truck, and it's just not happening. They have like administered some fluids to Buck and stuff, but like he's not doing well, and they need to get this thing off of him immediately. They finally are just like looking around, like desperate, and there are all these civilians behind some barriers, and they all just start pouring in to help out, because of course, like, you know, they see that there are people needed. Everybody just starts running in. It's such a Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 Sam Raimi moment, because I'm thinking of both the scene in Spider-Man 1 when the one New Yorker guy is like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, but also the scene in Spider-Man 2 when Spider-Man has stopped the train from like veering off the tracks just with his sheer force and willpower, and you know, he's unconscious, and they're all like carrying him across the subway train like Jesus. They, you know, he wakes up and he's got his mask is off, and one of the kids is like, we're not going to tell anybody, Spider-Man, we'll keep your secret. This was reminding me of both of those moments, because the civilians just step in to help lift the truck. Very emotional moment.
It is very emotional. I mean, it genuinely makes me cry every single time I watch it. I remember Oliver Stark, someone asked him in an interview like what were like some of his favorite moments in the show, and he always goes back to this one as like being very emotional and sort of like capturing a lot of like the themes of the show, which is about like community, and it's just like it's such a great well done moment. Buck's little screams as they're like lifting the truck off of him are like so like it's like such a guttural like scream. It's like
or like we keep cutting back to like shots of his face where he's doing so much acting wise. He kind of reminds me of that guy on TikTok. He's like a British guy who does these TikToks with really ridiculous scenarios of like guy gets attacked by a werewolf in a hospital, and it's just him. It's just him doing these like really emotional crying like performances where he's like pretending to be on the phone to his wife or something, being like, I'm sorry, I love you, or whatever. This was kind of what Oliver Stark's performance.
I'm sorry, I love you, I'm being attacked by a werewolf.
That's just like the most recent one I saw was him being attacked by a werewolf in a hospital, but that's kind of what Oliver Stark's performance was giving here, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Like, it was good, it was just like it was a lot. It was intense.
Yeah, it was very intense, and like appropriately, I would say, for the sensation of like trying to be pulled out while you're being crushed by a 70,000 pound truck.
It's fair.
A real life truck. No, I'm doing it. Fuck it.
Well, then there's a line from the news anchor in this scene where he says, this really is an amazing scene that's unfolding. I think that's such a hilarious thing for Tim Minear to write in his own script. Yeah. This really is an amazing scene that's unfolding. Like, okay, man, settle down.
I took note of that too. It was so like pat on the back, but honestly, like this scene genuinely is amazing. So I think it's deserved. I will give him the pass just this one time.
Right.
You did good, buddy.
Speaking of which, as they're finally getting Buck out on the stretcher, getting him into the ambulance, Eddie says, "Hang on there, buddy." Which could mean nothing.
Which could mean nothing. I love that everyone calls him Buckaroo. We haven't really taken note of that nickname yet, but everyone calls him Buckaroo.
We get a few Buckaroo mentions in this episode. I don't really care one way or the other about that nickname, but yeah, it's a thing that comes up sometimes in these early seasons. Well, the news anchor also says, quote, "This kind of brings me back to the earthquake." And I also thought it was interesting to like explicitly tie it back to the season's opening disaster.
And Allie, of course.
Right. Right at the end of this, as they're getting Buck onto the ambulance, Athena runs up to Bobby and she hugs him. And it's like, okay, all is well. Mm-hmm. Buck wakes up in the hospital. And who should be the first person he sees but Carla? Haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah.
She has a great line where she's like, "Hey, I see my friend on the news getting crushed by a fire truck. I'm here."
And it's like they're friends. He actually does have a friend. He has a friend outside of work.
Yeah, true, Carla.
That made me so happy. I love the two of them so much, and I'm so glad that she was the first person he saw, because it's not necessarily what you'd expect, but it makes perfect sense for his character, their relationship.
She mentions that he has 1 titanium rod and 4 cobalt chromed screws in his leg, which makes sense because like that looks like a pretty bad situation. He's lucky he didn't lose his leg.
They said that, you know, like with some time and some physical therapy, you know, he'll walk again. It'll his leg will be back in working order. And he goes, "But am I gonna be able to?" And I was so desperately hoping he would say, "Dance." And then, "I'm never gonna dance again," would start playing.
Or "Never Gonna Dance," which is a song from the Fred Astaire Ginger Rogers film Swing Time.
I've heard of that one.
I've had it on the brain a lot lately because I'm writing this video that may or may not involve dance movies.
You really have your niche cornered. I love to see it.
I really feel like I do. Buck does not sadly worry that he's never going to dance. He's worried about whether he'll be able to be a firefighter again. He's very worried about that.
Because it's the life he chose.
Maddie and Allie show up. I noticed this is probably the only scene they share together, right?
Maddie and Allie? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think they talk about? Like, other than Buck?
Well, they don't talk in this scene, which makes it even weirder. Like, Allie is the one who immediately goes to Buck, and then, like, Maddie and Carla exchange, like, kind of a funny moment about like, oh, like, notice how, you know, he doesn't thank us at all for being by his side. And Carla's like, I don't think he even like notices us anymore.
Need more of them. Need more of the two of them, by the way. They have great chemistry in this moment.
But also, like, have Maddie and Allie even talked to each other before? It doesn't really seem like it.
I'm sure Maddie had that, like, awkward, like, introduction, like, "Oh my god, Allie, I've heard so much about you." That's probably as deep as their relationship has gotten to this point.
But we go to Karen and Hen are at the playground with Denny. And Karen mentions that she got a part-time job at Caltech, so she's not unemployed, not fun employed anymore.
Not fun employed. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Justin. So it's like she no longer has her full-time job at NASA, but she does have a part-time job. She'll get to spend more time at home. It's remote. She says to Hen, like, "It's too bad you can't work from home." And Hen's like, "Listen, the day I'm working from home, our damn house is on fire." These two will have some intense home-related emergencies happen later in the show, so I was like, damn, sorry, Hen. Sorry.
That was such a funny line, though. I love Hen for that. She's just she's so quick with that. I love her.
Yeah. What we get from this scene is that Karen is interested in having more kids. She says something about, like, for Denny or whoever else might come along. And the two of them, I thought this was really cute. They, like, sit down on the swings together and they're talking about, like, yeah, maybe it'd be nice to have, like, some more little feet running around the house. And so we're setting up potentially Hen and Karen wanting more kids.
I love it when they're like in kind of like a goofy scenario, like this, like sitting on the swings, having like a conversation about the future of their family, and it's like in this like kind of like fun setting. Like I just love like moments of levity with the two of them, because like we talk about this like a couple of times, but like they were introduced like with such like so they were so serious, like they were having marital problems, Hen's affair, all that stuff. I love it when they're like being like fun and in love and like silly.
I know.
I did write down gonna be a long road, divas.
We'll get to that when we get to it.
Because it's gonna be a long road.
We'll get to that when we get to it. We cut to Eddie arriving at the 118 station. There's a shiny new fire truck there. Turns out, after all that, they've gotten a new fire truck. Chimney says something about like, yeah, we've got it as long as we promise not to like blow it up, flip it, whatever.
Which is a genuine concern with these people. Genuine concern.
It really is. But who should come around the corner but Bobby? He's back. He is back as captain. This is a lot like the end of the last episode of season 7, when like you think Bobby's been reinstated, but then it's a bait and switch. This isn't a bait and switch. Bobby is back for real. Yep. Chimney has a line. This just hit a little too close to home due to recent events. Chimney has a line where he says, well, it's kind of hard to fire a guy who was a hero on the 6 o'clock news. Imagine the letters they would get. And then Hen walks into the station saying, not to mention the fiery tweet storm that'll rain down on their heads, starting with me. I was like, you guys don't even joke about that.
Fiery tweet storm mentioned.
Don't even joke about the fiery tweet storm that would rain down if Bobby were to not be in the picture anymore.
And, they're saying, it's feeling like everything's getting back to normal. And you get a sad zoom in on Eddie as he very dourly looks down and he goes, almost. He's missing his Pookie Bear. He's missing his Pookie Bear.
It's wild.
I don't know if this is controversial, but I think this might be the most buddy episode yet.
There's a lot going on here. It's kind of one of the more subtle buddy episodes because it's not like they have a whole lot of interactions here. But yeah, there are a few significant moments. One, the explicit referencing of Buddy in the influencer live stream chat. Then the way Eddie's there for him, I think he might be holding his hand.
I think he's holding his hand as they're lifting it off of him.
It was hard to tell. I was rewinding during that scene and I can't really tell if it's Eddie's hand or Hen's hand, but
I like to think it's Eddie's.
The fandom seems to have agreed that it's Eddie's. They're holding hands while Buck is underneath the fire truck. And then this scene where everybody seems to be totally fine and moving on, but Eddie says almost with the significant sad look. I was into it.
I was so into it. I'm very happy about this. And
yes,
I was just living my life. I wanted to go back to when this was airing and look at what AO3 was at the time. And so I'm getting the urge to filter search for the day this aired and just read what was posted.
Literally. But we cut to Allie and Buck getting back to the loft. It's Buck's first time being back since getting discharged from the hospital. And Buck, it's kind of this ridiculous thing where he's just bought this loft with this upstairs bedroom. And he can't sleep in his own bed for the next 3 months because he can't climb the stairs of the loft he just bought. And Allie has this great line where she says, "You're like a perpetual roommate, even in your own place," which I thought felt like an oddly poignant line about Buck that will continue to be true right up until the latest season,
Yeah.
He's literally living in Eddie's house as a roommate. And I was like, wow, that's kind of, or even in season 6 when he has that whole conflict about my couch, when am I going to find the right couch that makes sense? It's it feels like he is always a perpetual roommate, even in his own place. That's kind of a hallmark of who Buck is. And his loneliness, which we mentioned before.
Can I say something? He mentions that he's going to be sleeping on his couch for the next 3 months. So, and then later on, he mentions in season 6 that all of his couches have come with girlfriends. So is this Allie's couch? Because she wasn't moving in.
Maybe she, like, picked it out for him.
But then, like, when she moved out of the loft, she took the couch with her. So did she, like, take Buck's couch? Like...
I think there's something when they move in together that, like, they have 2 couches. So maybe they got rid of Buck's and took Taylor's.
Oh, that's probably true. I mean, I forgot a lot of the details of the storyline, which is why I'm excited to rewatch it, because I'll be going in with fresh eyes again.
Anyhow, an important thing to note about this scene is that Buck is wearing his classic breakup forest green. This is a fandom thing that people have picked up on, that anytime Buck breaks up with a partner, he's wearing dark green. And I had to go back, but I'm pretty sure in this scene he is wearing forest green. So you know this relationship is not long for this world. Allie starts talking to him. She really introduces it rather mildly. She's like, you know, what are you thinking about? What's next? I thought it was so funny. Buck, like, instantly starts crying. Like,
yeah.
If you look at him, his eyes immediately fill with tears. And he is asking, he, like, immediately takes this very hard.
Think about your future.
He takes this very hard. He's like, what? Like, did the doctor say something to you? And she's like, no, like, I'm just asking you about, like, you know, this injury is big. Like, what are you thinking? And Allie essentially has realized that this life that Buck chose is too intense for her. She's like, you know, when I met you at the earthquake, like, that was, like, the worst moment of my life, but that's, like, every day for you. And she's not sure she can handle that kind of intensity and mortal peril that Buck is constantly in. And this is the scene I was talking about earlier, where she says she doesn't know yet, but in hindsight, we know that this is the last we'll see of Allie, so she actually did make up her mind. She can't handle it, which is fair.
I mean, like, I totally get that. I do think it is funny to have this conversation, not as like a ethical indictment of Allie or anything. But I've always thought it was kind of scummy to, like, walk out on your partner right as they have a life-altering accident that leaves them.
I mean, we were, to be fair, we were, like, Tatiana defenders, so I feel like we can't fully say this, but I agree. I feel like if she was going to leave Buck, she probably should have done it the Tatiana way, where, like, while he's in the hospital, you say, you know, I can't deal with this, to get him back to his loft, kind of with this implication as if you're going to help him through his recovery, and then be like, I'm dipping. That is a little... Maybe she should have thought it through a little bit before now.
But also Tatiana's reasons, I thought, were a little bit more defensible in the moment than Allie's here. Like, Allie, her reasoning is about, like, you know, issues that are, like, 3 months down the road. And so, like, if you care about your partner, like, I would probably, like, this is just what I would do as a perfect moral paragon of relationships everywhere. I would probably, you know, at least, you know, help my partner through the recovery process before having this conversation and deciding to call things off, right? I feel like that would just be, like, the morally correct thing to do in a relationship. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, she should have timed it, like, before or after, but doing it right now feels a little harsh. But yeah, it's, you know, her reasoning makes sense, which is, yeah, not everyone could, like, have a partner who has such a dangerous job. It is probably really stressful.
Yeah, so she could just enjoy him being out of work for 3 months. But then again, in fairness, if that was the case, then we wouldn't have gotten Buddy Tsunami arc. So
true. Oh my god, true.
Allie needed to die so Buddy Tsunami arc could rise. That's true.
Okay, to be clear, she did not die. I believe, as far as we know, she is still alive.
Yeah.
But back at the 118, Chimney is hanging out, and who has shown up for a visit but Maddie? Maddie's there.
Madney.
Chimney is very excited to see Maddie, and she starts giving him a little speech where she says, you know, a little while ago, you told me that you thought we'd never get back what we had. And Chimney starts to say, like, yeah, I've been thinking about that too. Maybe I was wrong. And Maddie's like, no, it's true that we'll never get back what we once had, but maybe we can have something else. Mm-hmm. And they're both so in love, and
They're
Chimney's
so in
like
love. It's so perfect.
Chimney's like,
Oh.
you were standing right there when you first asked me out, and I don't think I'd ever been happier, like, except for right now or something. And then they kiss. It's maddening. They kiss. It's so satisfying, so romantic.
It's everything.
It's everything.
I am obsessed with these two. I love them so much, and I'm so glad they get to be together. Like, it's the perfect resolution to things, because like it's exactly what we said in our episode about like the one following, like when they had their, you know, taking a break moment. I'm glad that they, like, you know, clearer heads prevailed, and I'm so excited to see their relationship blossom in the coming episodes in season 3. Then we go from that to another Maddie scene at Buck's loft.
Yeah, we go back to Buck's loft.
The Maddie Buck sibling scene I was aching for. Maddie is fucking up this fabric.
Maddie is ripping Buck's work pants to make room for his cast. Not to be nitpicky, but I feel like given how skin tight his cast looked and how wide leg his pants looked, I feel like he probably could have just fit his pants over his cast, but I guess they're just like going with realism, that he would have had to, you know, cut one of the legs off his pants. So,
hey, you know, realism is very important on this show, as we have established.
Okay. So Maddie is doing this. Buck is like upset. He's like, hey, you're being like so messy with it. She's like, come on, like you're going to sew this pant leg back onto your pants. And Buck, for this entire scene, still looks like he already has tears in his eyes, which is wild. Yeah. It's like he just perpetually has tears in his eyes now that he's had this injury. And he starts getting angsty again about the prospect of like, will he be able to become a firefighter again or not? And he mentions that his doctor thinks he has to have another surgery to make up for what the doctor is seeing on his x-rays. And Maddie is like, okay, does he really think you're not healing in the right way? Or are you just not healing fast enough? Like not healing yet? Because, you know, maybe you can just wait if it's the latter, right? And she kind of realizes that Buck is the one insisting that the doctor rush things because he really wants to get back to firefighting. And she's like, come on, like there are other things you can do with your life that are important. And he says, so emotionally, being a firefighter is my life. It's like, okay.
It is. He is doing the most here.
He is, but you get that it's true for him.
Yeah, it is. Buck's entire his entire identity and like sense of self is wrapped up in being a firefighter, because it's the only thing he's ever achieved in his life. It's the only thing that has given his life meaning. Especially now that he and Allie are seemingly broken up, and he's feeling a little adrift, a little lost, if you will. So, like, you know, you understand why he's pushing back so hard against the idea of having to take time off. And it's like setting the stage for a very interesting storyline that we'll be coming to in the coming months.
Yes, very much. This whole scene is total setup for the next season. And Maddie tries to tell him, like, you'll still be Buck. And, this is the part where she says, there are a lot of other important things you can do with your life. And Buck just says, no. Which I thought was such a Buck moment, you know, just like reasonable point. No.
It's so Buck. I mean, like, it's interesting for his character that like still after all this time and after all of his growth, he doesn't feel like he is like enough. You know, he feels like without being a firefighter, he's, you know, basically nothing. He's not a person. He doesn't really know who Buck is. And like it goes back to like that thing Oliver was talking about after, you know, the big coming out episode, where he always played Buck as if he was like searching for something. But there was this like part of himself that he couldn't come to grasp with. And like you really feel that in this moment, because Buck doesn't feel like he's enough. He doesn't feel like he himself is good enough for, well, you know, as we find out, his mommy and daddy's approval down the road. And so I like this like moment of like character drama for him, and I like this storyline that they're setting up of like Buck having to, you know, come to terms with his identity outside of being a firefighter. What does that mean for him? You know, it's good. It's good, compelling drama. I feel like Buck is always like the one that I go back to, except for that one storyline, for good like introspective character drama. And we all know the storyline I'm talking about. Let's leave that in season 6.
We go to Eddie's firefighter graduation ceremony. His probationary
Eddie
period
party.
is over. Eddie
party.
And Bobby is giving a little speech, and he specifically says, people assume we choose this life. Sometimes I think this life chooses us. It's almost like this life we choose. Get it? We start like panning to the other people in the audience, and I wrote down my notes. I'm sorry, there's an extremely hot woman out of focus behind Maddie. Can I get her name? To address this, it was just like one shot. We see like Buck and Maddie, and behind them is a woman out of focus who looks so hot. And I think it was just an extra, but she's very beautiful. And I was just like, what's her deal? You know?
Everyone track her down.
But we're getting like the whole speech about Eddie. Eddie looks so proud. Buck looks so proud in the audience. And Christopher comes up to give Eddie his firefighter helmet.
It's so cute. Oh, this little moment is so sweet. And this is like when Eddie's at his best, when he's being a dad and he's having like his little moments with Chris, and Chris is he's so small.
He is very small. We get a Decemberists needle drop.
Oh my god. When this fucking song started playing, I about lost my mind.
But then we get a little bit of Athena voiceover. Another like non sequitur, not set up at the beginning of the episode voiceover moment. She starts talking about how an emergency is the absence of choice. And I did think that was an interesting observation. But we're getting, some Athena insights about life. We get a good montage of footage from the Eddie ceremony. Buddy hug number 1? ?
Number 1, I think, yeah.
It's so cute. Eddie's like kind of jokingly going into it, but then they really hug. It was cute.
It's like more of a lingering hug than he gives like Hen or like a... and like it's interesting. There's a little spark there. I will say I found this monologue to be incredibly corny.
Well, it's the finale of 911 season 2, so
nothing new for this show, but I noticed it because everything else in this episode was pretty much a slam dunk for me. So I'd say I noticed the corniness more than usual. But yeah, it's cute. You get Chim dancing with Maddie.
There's a moment at about 41:20 for anyone who wants to check the exact timestamp. Buck gets some cake and he eats the fuck out of this cake. Like, biggest bite I have ever seen. And I remember, I'm pretty sure I sent you a picture of this when I was like editing my 911 video.
Oh yeah.
I was like, look at Buck eating this cake. Because this has always been crazy. He just like unhinges his jaw to eat the cake. Maybe we can like post this picture on Twitter when we post the episode so that people know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Check that out. It's really funny, in my opinion. I love it.
This will be our little thumbnail pick when we tweet about this episode going up.
Yes.
Oh my god. I forgot about that. Jesus Christ.
But finally, Bobby arrives home to Athena and he asks her, "What are you doing today?" And she's like, "Oh, laundry, whatever." And Bobby says, "What if we got married instead?" Bobby wants to get impulse married just at the courthouse because, the last few days have taught him that you can just never be sure of today, of the present moment. And Athena, instead of being freaked out by this, which I think would have been a little bit valid, she's like very charmed by this. She gets it.
Yeah, she was there. She gets it.
Bobby is like, "I know you don't have a dress." And she says, "Oh, I have a dress." And
she does have the dress. It is this absolutely gorgeous, cream colored, like off the shoulder, like knee length, like form fitting dress. It is absolutely gorgeous on her. If I may make a stylistic critique.
Is it the cami underneath?
It is the black bra straps hanging out of the off the shoulder boat neck dress.
See, I could not tell. Okay, that's not what boat neck means. Sorry.
No, it's not what that means. I said it and I'm like, that's not what that means. Sorry.
But I couldn't tell if that was like she was wearing a tank top or bra underneath, or if that was like an intentional part of the dress, like attached to the dress, because it clearly it was an intentional choice. So like it could be a part of the dress, but maybe they were just trying to make it like look more casual since it was like this spur of the moment wedding. I don't know, but I agree with you. I would have preferred just like the off the shoulder without the straps underneath.
She does look great. She looks gorgeous.
They get to the courthouse. They get married. Bathena wedding. May and Harry are there.
Bathena wedding. This show loves to disrupt like a big wedding ceremony for like something more intimate and low key with just family.
Which, you know, I'm okay with that. I feel like I see a lot of people being like, oh, when they do the buddy wedding, when it's so funny that we just like assume it'll happen one day.
It will.
But I see people being like, oh, when they do the buddy wedding, it's got to be like a big wedding. I honestly am okay with, I wasn't as crazy about the Madney wedding getting interrupted, but I get the utility of calling off the big fancy wedding for a smaller, more intimate wedding. But the end of Athena's monologue here is she says, because nobody, not anybody, has ever been saved alone. So we're leaving this season with the impression that, you know, togetherness is the most important thing. You can't go it alone. And that's how we end this season. Congratulations, you guys. We have made it through a full season of 911, not even just like the first 10 episode season, but a full 18 episode season.
Oh, what a journey it has been to get to this point.
Truly.
Reflections on season 2. I thought season 2 was an absolute front to start banger. I mean, there were individual episodes that I like wasn't as crazy about, and there were like some storylines that I wasn't crazy about the execution, but overall, like I thought this season was like remarkable and like so good at like setting the stage for like what 911 is. You know, season 1 really felt like proto. It was like 911 1.0, you know. Like it's like important backstory. And this is like where the show actually started. Yeah,
on some level, yeah. It really does feel like just yesterday we were talking about Eddie's introduction, but I agree. I think this has been a great season. I'm excited to get to season 3 because that just feels like we're like really committed in a way. Like we've kind of decided that we really are going through with this and reviewing the whole show.
No, I totally agree. And like it's daunting a little bit. Like I feel like we made our way out of like the video game introductory level like cave, and then like we stepped out onto the cliff and we see the totality of the rest of the show ahead of us. We're like, ah! Right. But that's exciting to me. I don't know. This is going to be such an adventure going forward. Mm-hmm. This episode is really good. This episode was so good.
It was. Shout out to Tim Minear, kind of. Shout out to Bradley, however you pronounce his name. Shout out to all the writers and directors of every episode we've covered so far this season. You know what?
Especially Jennifer Lynch.
She did a lot of heavy lifting.
Yes, she did.
That just needs to be acknowledged. And, you know, stay tuned for our potential season 8 bonus episode that we will not put out until after season 8 is done airing.
Thank you for joining us on this wonderful tour of 911 season 2. And next episode, baby, there's a wave in the water.
I don't think that happens episode 1. Maybe the end of episode 1.
The end of episode 1.
There's a blood clot in Buck's leg. And keep that mental health in check no matter what happens in season 8 of 911.